Yeah, thanks everyone for joining this week. We were off the last 2 weeks because of my travels. So let me dive into it. Feel free to interrupt as we go. Um, there's actually one new paper in the past couple of weeks that came out from our group or people in our group, like Nydia and other folk, like Joseph. This is a paper that people have been working on for like the past year and a half. Looking at Malta with Joseph Borges, University of Malta, and Graziella, where they're looking at different variants and the evolution of how in Malta being the small island country next to Europe, how different variants eventually changed, and then also in relationship to travel to Europe and other places, how those things are related. So it's an interesting little paper put out. Just came out a couple of weeks ago, finally. So people are interested, the links there. So also, we're trying to organize them. I'm trying to organize a meeting with some people like Pacos here. And so just to update there, talking to Joseph, University of Malta would most likely host it. So, but then we still looking for sponsors to be able to cover a lot of the expenses. So we're in the process of doing that. Hopefully, we'll get some sponsors, and if we eventually do, then we'll send invites for probably a few people here and other people. But then registration will open up for this meeting, and hopefully, people will be interested in. Tentative dates is this, but it's plus or minus a couple of weeks around this date. So if people are interested, and actually, if people are interested in knowing a few sponsors that might be able to help us out, please let me know. I have a slide deck, a PDF that we can send out to people. But the good thing is that looks like University of Malta will host the event, so we could actually have a venue for that. And Malta's a very nice country, so and a unique place to have a meeting. I think people will probably enjoy it there. And the topics we're covering is here, so everything regulatory RNAs from key aspects of life like mitochondria and aging and Orange's life to infectious diseases to basic, major diseases like cancer and cardiovascular to beyond related with space biology, quantum biology, and so on. So I think there's a broad enough topic that people might be interested to come to this. But yeah, we're looking for sponsors still. So people have no sponsors. So let's just go into the recent news. If people haven't, in the U.S., there's still the free COVID tests again that was announced a couple months ago, a month ago. So if you haven't ordered your free kits, as might as well. I just got mine yesterday, but does well take advantage of it. I would recommend it. Here's some nice. There's an article talking about that now we got the RSV vaccine, we got the flu shots, we got the COVID, and other respiratory vaccines. As that CDC's recommended for the first time that if you're pregnant, you could actually take all four at once, which is probably a no-brainer for most of us here. But still, there's that hesitancy for there's a large hesitancy for pregnant women for some reason that a lot of misinformation because out there, but saying that they don't want to take it while they're pregnant. But now that more and more data is coming out, taking all four vaccines is still very safe for during pregnancy and it's recommended. As we know, like when women get COVID, any flu, whooping cough, RSV, when you're pregnant, it could cause additional complications to even your unborn child. So it's probably a good idea to get vaccinated. There's this Nature article talking about a new study that talking about how potentially this drug, the incit, I can't ever pronounce this, incitarilivir, butchered the name, but it's an antiviral drug that they've been showing that potentially it could shorten the sensory problems like loss of smell and taste, which is less often happening now with the new variants, but still happening. So this is interesting to see that potentially this antiviral could reduce that, and the length of the time might potentially be something that for long COVID patients too, to see what happens there. But this is just a Nature news article on that, so people interested there. Again, for the vaccination part, this other, which you might not be surprised, show you later, the overall the wastewater showing the decline in case numbers, but what predictions show with the holidays coming up, the decline is going to go back up probably because of the gatherings and so on. So it's not a surprise that new boosters, people recommend you get it. There's this nice article here, this paper that came out that just yesterday, 2 days ago, talking about the association of Guillain-Barré syndrome with COVID-19 infections and how vaccinations could potentially reduce that. So that nice thing from the vaccination. But Guillain-Barré disease is a rare condition. It's an immune system launches misguided attack on nerves. There were some hints of this from other papers coming out earlier in the past couple of years. But the interesting thing now, this paper was a large study they did. This Israeli population showing that's the correlation between that. No biology. This is more like an epidemiology study. They did the surveys and they look at the correlation between people infected COVID and people having increased rate of or increased incidence of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And this is more recent, so in the past, so be the more Omicron variants. There's some interesting news here with the pan coronavirus. This paper came out a couple of days ago, but they're talking about this group here led by Kevin Sanders is looking at a trivalent vaccine to cover like a pan coronavirus type vaccine. And so far, it's showing very promising results. They were looking at this nice graph snapshot, looking at SARS-CoV-2 mirrors SARS-CoV, and this other this other bat cove version of and basically what they're focusing is using nanoparticle vaccine and looking at the antibody response or targeting the cross antibodies for the 3 different sites for these different SARS or coronavirus viruses. And so far, what they've been showing is that this single vaccine to target the kind of pan coronavirus is showing it's only mice experiments, but what they're showing is that the mice do not get sick. So that's the main take-home message there. So it seems to be listening. They've looked at, this is one of the figures from there, but they looked at immune response and things like that related to mice and how much protection it has between the different viruses or mirrors to SARS. So that's promising. So maybe in a few years they might have a version to maybe go to clinical trials if this holds true once they progress. Some long COVID stuff, news. This paper just came out a few days ago. You might have heard about it. But it's a new study that they're considering potentially looking at. Long COVID is more related to the changes in your gut. So we're hearing a lot of different long COVID stuff come out. And this study is showing now the gut relationship. So basically looking at, it's correlating long COVID with low serotonin levels. And what they looked at is, the serotonin levels throughout the body, and they also looked at that throughout the vagus and the intestinal tissues. And I didn't put any of the figures from the paper, but one thing they did was this is quotes from this ABC News article, but one thing they did is they collected, medical charts and EHR records from 1,500 patients with long COVID, did the questionnaires, and then what they did is take blood samples from a portion of those patients, the 58 long COVID patients, and then they compared to 30 who recovered fully, and of course, people who had active COVID infections and people who didn't have COVID, long COVID. And so they have been, the population is there for that. And then they did a bunch of immune assays. They looked at interferon responses, serotonin level responses. They looked at amino acids. I don't remember. I don't think they did any sequencing on here, but they basically looked at standard things for serotonin. And basically what they saw is that in long COVID patients, they saw leftover bits of the virus, different parts of the virus within the gastrointestinal tract, which is what this graphical abstract is showing. And they're associating that with the instigation or the increase of inflammation that might occur because of the leftover bits of the virus. And then this would be basically causing higher tryptophan levels that are being absorbed, and the amino acids essential for that, and eventually going up, to the neurocognitive effects with the serotonin levels being at really low levels. And of course, low level serotonin effects can cause cognitive issues. So that's the basic. Oh yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, did they look at gut microbiota?
They didn't talk about the microbes specifically in the paper, but that's something. Yeah, you're talking about like specific bacteria that might be.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering about changes in consortia. Different.
I didn't go into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean that would be something interesting. Yes, depending on the flora.
Yeah, and I still think that's something that should be done with wastewater. I know I've discussed it in the past, but I don't think that's been looked at with wastewater. Mm-hmm. And maybe we should talk about that more. But I think again, as a biomarker, it might be useful It may be useful for determining, of course, across a population sample, it becomes a problem. But anyway, I think that would be a useful study. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, so they didn't look at the flora and they didn't talk about any of that in this paper. But I imagine that should have an influence somewhere. So
well, I mean, there's been some work already with changes in gut microbiota, but since they did such extensive work with serotonin levels in correlation with neurocognitive impacts and other physiological impacts, I would have thought they would have done that. But anyway, yeah, maybe we should contact them.
yeah.
If they've got any data, we yeah.
Definitely, yeah. But I mean, they did a pretty good, thorough job looking at like different inflammatory, interferon and immune responses of different related with long COVID patients. So imagine the data they should be able to share. So yeah, it'd be good to reach out. I guess with May and Libby, the senior author, to reach out to that person.
Is there a direct connection between serotonin levels and the gut microbiome?
You mean in general?
Yeah, in general. I mean, has that been a subject of study aside from the context of COVID-19?
I'm not an expert, but I've seen papers in the past to show us. So someone else, maybe someone else here, maybe Kevin, or someone else might have seen more papers in general about this. But I've seen the correlation. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I actually haven't followed up on it now in months, so I can't tell you what the current status of the research is. So I would I would be careful about making any comments at this point. But yeah, it's certainly something to look at. Not just serotonin though. I would advise. You could look at various monoamines. So
yeah.
And there is a correlation with changes in gut microbiota and changes with monoamines. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm not an expert in either, but I've seen papers talking about what Kevin's talking about, another relationship. It's like the gut brain axis, right? That people are looking at a lot of people for different disease models. But yeah, it's an interesting paper here. People look at. People have other insight. Feel free to comment. Oops. There's this other long COVID paper that came out in Lancet. I think this week. Yeah, I don't know. It was a couple of weeks ago since we had a meeting. But I mean, the question has come up with people in the group. If you had this discussion, long COVID obviously is one thing that really brought the attention of long-term impact of acute kind of infection syndrome that they're calling here, or acute infections. But the other question we had brought up before with people in the group is there such thing as long flu or long cold or long any kind of infection? People just haven't been paying attention to it. So this is actually, I think, the first paper I've seen that is maybe starting to tackle that question. So the findings of, I mean, they looked at the biology, but they looked at they had like 10,000 participants questionnaires, and they gave it out for different symptoms. This is one of the figures from the paper. There's more tables in the paper than tables, but they looked at different symptoms from mild, moderate, severe to the SARS-CoV-2 or non-COVID-19, acute respiratory type infections, and then no infection. In fact, interesting enough, there's no infection. When they gave the survey, the people there for the hospital for a reason, I think, but they had some stomach problems, but it wasn't related with any kind of these viral infections. But you can see, for example, the symptoms are pretty correlative with SARS-CoV-2 for these non-COVID acute respiratory infections. So, and their time point they're looking at is 4 weeks, I believe, after, 4 weeks, or here it is, 4 weeks or greater prior they had their infection. So it's not, let's say, a year later, but at least it's within a 4 to 8 week window. But their basic finding is that indeed, for non-COVID ARIs or acute respiratory infections, there's a wide range of symptoms that last more than 4 weeks. So maybe there has been things like long flu and long COVID where people haven't really paid attention to it, and maybe now people might consider what's going on with some of these other infectious diseases or infections that people get. No biology in it, but there's just questions. So I guess the next question would be, is what similar biology is between these, since the overlay between SARS-CoV-2 and non-COVID acute respiratory infections are sort of similar. except for the problem with smell and taste. You can see where SARS-CoV-2 diverges.
Afshin, did they give any sense for what might be the other viruses that might be predominant?
Yeah, there's a table in there. So they have like some of the influenzas. There's some of the other cold coronaviruses and other kinds of rhinoviruses. I forget the whole list, but yeah. Yeah, so I could go back to the paper and get back to you.
Thanks. I'll check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, there was mainly influenza, cold viruses. I forget what other ones, but maybe RSV even. But don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'll send that out. I'll let you know.
Is the top is the A part of this figure representing the symptoms present during the acute phase of infection?
This is for SARS-CoV-2. This is within the post long COVID symptoms and acute. I think they did.
Well, let me rephrase the question. What does Part A tell us? I'm not.
Part A is Part A is SARS-CoV-2 symptoms based on within greater than 4 weeks or greater, basically what they're experiencing still.
Okay.
So this would be probably assuming they're going long COVID, but 4 weeks the virus should have left this body, right? So any other topic? Okay, so we'll move on to this one. This is a Nature commentary that came out. I thought it was interesting and important to discuss too. Basically, commentary saying that potentially we should have a moonshot for long COVID. And this plot I thought was pretty informative. But they're showing the number of people estimate to have long COVID globally. What they estimate based on this Nature paper here, I guess, and other estimates over the next 10 years. What would be long COVID, and what they're saying here is, of course, it's approaching to heart disease, which is a high priority medical condition to have. So that's one of the things they're saying. We should really have some priorities, and they kind of outline in there. The failures of the recovery program, as a lot of people have, and what people should really prioritize. So this kind of brings more perspective, I think, to what's happening, and nice summary of what's going on. Okay, so I didn't find too many. I'm sure there's other papers that I missed, but the dominant variants, again, it's kind of a variant soup that's out there, but the dominant variants I'll go into is the EG 5.1 is taking over. But as you see nationally, the wastewater is showing it had this dip a few weeks ago. But keep in mind that the BioBot to be from 2 weeks ago, or August 9th, which is almost 2 weeks ago. So every 2 weeks, then they re-update this. So probably this is even going down further, hopefully. But from 2 weeks ago, you can see this going down, and then this kind of breakdown from region. Most regions are going down. So it looks like, depending on the county level, like my county, there was a dip, and now it's kind of plateaued and up. So not sure what's happening there. Maybe next week we'll go back down. This is from, again, prior 2 weeks ago. And you can see that, it's a variant soup, but the EG.5 is the one that's becoming more and more dominant, maybe winning this competition, at least in the US, but most places in the world follow the same thing right now. So the variants, again, is the same thing, showing the CDC COVID tracker that's EG.5. Again, it's taken over, but you can see all the different variants, and the regions of the US about the same. And EG.5 is here in the evolution of the virus, so you can see where it's evolving from and how close it is to the different other variants. And then, I always show this, obviously the new case count. Everyone stopped keeping track of cases. So hospital admissions is one way, and ICU is one way to keep track for regions in the world that report that. And you can see the US, just like the wastewater is showing, the hospital admissions and the ICUs are going down. So that's a good thing. So that's it for this week.